And I hope that at some point in the last 2 weeks, he will answer those questions. I've looked at his budget, I looked at his economic development proposals, and I said it back in September when he released it, and I'm going to say it again today, the numbers simply do not add up. And I want to ask Brian to be really honest and clear with Vermonters about what he's going to be doing in his budget and in his economic development plan. He did misspeak when he said he was going to target the most vulnerable, and I don't believe he meant to say that. But if you read his proposals, that's exactly what he is doing, is targeting the most vulnerable. In his effort to give a huge tax cut to the 1,400 wealthiest Vermonters, a $250 million tax cut for these folks making over $370,000 a year, he is targeting the most vulnerable. He is saying he will have to increase taxes on folks in the lowest tax bracket by $100 million to pay for those at the highest end. He is saying he will limit budget increases to 2%. I want to know how he's going to do it. And I think it's important that he answers the question of how you're going to limit budget increases to 2%. And even if you did all of that, his numbers still don't add up. His proposal leads to a deficit. But let's talk about the 2% for a moment. He said corrections is off limits. Doesn't like Peter Shumlin's idea of trying to get those costs under control. He's saying, when he was asked about Dr. Dinosaur, he wouldn't touch Dr. Dinosaur. Let's look at the healthcare budget. Healthcare costs are going up 6% a year in the state of Vermont. They have been for years. If you're going to limit our healthcare programs, Medicaid and others, to 2%, what are you going to level fund, and what are you going to cut, and what programs are you going to eliminate, Brian? Let's look at programs for the elderly. We're seeing, talk to the folks in the agencies on aging, they're seeing increases in demands for people for Meals on Wheels programs, for the assistance, the hotlines, and the various programs that are available to our senior citizens. And we do know, and some of us, because we're getting perilously close to that retirement age, 65, that the numbers are only going to be increasing, and the numbers have been increasing. So if he's going to limit budget increases to overall 2%, then something's got to give. Is it going to be our elderly? Is it going to be people with disabilities? Is it going to be kids? Is it going to be the elderly who are looking for help with prescription drugs, as Susan pointed out? Brian, the question is, what are you going to do? So my questions for Brian are really quite simple. Who are the most vulnerable in your mind, Brian? And who are those who are receiving services who you do not think are vulnerable? Tell us what programs, what human services programs you are going to cut, and who is going to be affected. And in conjunction with that, how much pain and suffering, Brian, are you willing to inflict on those Vermonters who are relying on a little bit of assistance to pay for your tax cuts for the wealthiest Vermonters, who, by the way, are not asking for those tax cuts? So in the second question I have is, what kind of economic theory do you subscribe to when your proposals sound an awful lot like the failed trickle-down economics, which have been tried and which have been discredited over the years? Do you, Brian, honestly believe that by giving the wealthiest Vermonters a big tax cut, that the economy is going to get a boost? Tell us if that's what you believe and how that is going to happen, because that's economic theory that no economist in this country subscribes to these days. So, Brian, it's time to talk about the real issues, and whether it's choice, or whether it's education, whether it's healthcare proposals, or whether it's your budget. Stop hiding behind your nasty negative attack ads, which are only about character, and start talking to Vermonters about your vision for this state. And I think the reason he's not doing that is his vision is one which is a very negative vision, a vision that will hurt this state and will really destroy what we've had for so many years in Vermont, which is a strong sense of community and caring, where Vermonters look out for each other. Thank you.
Questions?
Just, Doug, a sort of a specific one about what were the three statements he said in that press release during the recount? Can you remember?
One of them was, this came from actually a disagreement amongst all of us, I think, but I voted against the tax increase 2 years ago because of for various reasons. about how it went through the Senate. I thought it went through rather quickly. I didn't understand the implications of it and all of that. He said I voted against it because I said that it didn't raise enough taxes, and I thought we should be raising more taxes from Vermonters. Never said it. He could never cite a quotation that actually indicated that was my reason. It wasn't at all my reason. He said that I had not supported challenges for change, that I didn't believe in government efficiency. I actually voted for the 2 challenges for change bills because I thought it was an important process for state government and education and our nonprofits to go through. I ended up voting against the budget because I thought there was a hole in that budget. We debated that point. But he stated that I had voted against it and I had actually voted for it. And I forget what the third one was, but I'll be happy to try to dig it out.
You know, what they say, and they've got this big folder here, is that they can back up every one of those, and I haven't got through it yet, but every one of those charges in the ads. They got a new website up with a lot of documentation on it. Isn't it fair game to talk about the person who's going to be governor, or who could be governor?
If you cherry pick things and take them out of context, I think it's not fair. And then doing it over and over again. I mean, using, for example, the what they say over and over again about how Peter Shumlin was voted the most ethically challenged by his peers. Well, that may be true, but it was only 7 people, right? So it's not meaningful. It's not a fact that supports the premise that the majority of his peers believes he's the most ethically challenged legislator. That's a problem. And even when, you know, the facts come out and they're corrected, they don't back down because it's a successful soundbite for them. It's Machiavellian. They don't care if they destroy Peter Shumlin's character and his reputation. They just want to win. And that's not the Vermont way.